Morning. How we doing? So today I felt compelled to talk about who we are, what we are, and what we're doing here. Been thinking about doing this video for a while, and it's a topic where your imagination can run wild. So bear with me, because there's going to be some points I make which are going to lead to me to have to emphasize some other points. So basically I'm going to talk about who we are, what we're doing here. So I'll start with something that we can all agree on, in that the world doesn't seem to be like a harmonious, good place. And it's not like there's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of injustice, a lot of things which don't make any sense. So what's the reason for that? Well, something we know as a fact is that it's all controlled, banking, money, government, by satanic paedophiles who serve a satanic god and agenda, and they seem to have gained control over things over generations of time to make this reality very dense, and to, inject children full of poison when they're born, and people to be born with deformities and things to not make any sense. Animals to be born in like starving environments, just suffering from birth to death. And then what happened from there? Like, what would be the point of it all? What makes sense? Well, to me, my opinion is that we're trapped. We're in a trap. Bloody hell, camera. We're in a loosh farm. And if you're not aware of what loosh is our energy being harvested, or our fear. That's it. So the best way to explain this in layman's terms is Morpheus in the film The Matrix. Hold on. Where he holds up a battery and he says, humans have been manipulated. Sorry, it's very busy here at the minute. I'll just try and find a way through. So it says humans are being harvested and manipulated in a way to turn them into one of these, and he holds up a battery. And that's true. That's like a good analogy of what I believe. Now, it's figuratively speaking in the movie where people are plugged in with the back of their head, but that concept could be very similar to what's happening now. So that gets to the point of, how do we escape it? If we're all being harvested for loosh. So basically what I think happens when we die, what I think happens when we die is we'd go into like a fake heaven. Like the forces that rule this realm are obviously not human. Sacrifices have been made to them through ancient times. Religion's been manipulated to serve them, like eating the body of Christ and drinking the blood of Christ at church. Jesus to hold similar poses as you'd find Baphomet or Baal or Satan on Google. Everything's been turned upside down, and ancient knowledge and wisdom has been turned against us. So people are going and doing satanic rituals at church every week, eating the body of Christ and such, thinking they're doing a good thing and serving God, whereas they'd be serving Satan. And also, consider this. Say over 5 billion out of the proposed 8 billion people on Earth believe in the major religions. So, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism. So, say it's a fake heaven, which has been manipulated by these same entities. I think they'd have less control because it'd be at a lower vibration. It'd be more at the, well, it's going to be at the spirit realm, whereas now we interact on the physical realm. So what's to say those 5 billion people, if a fake Jesus or Buddha shows up, or Muhammad, are not just going to follow his word? So what do we hear about out-of-body and near-death experiences? We hear about people feeling a sense of love and peace, meeting their loved ones, or Jesus, or like an old wise man, or seeing something very tantalizing in a way, whether it be a stadium full of people telling them to go back to the light, or an old man doing a life review with somebody and telling them things that they could improve. Basically, it's a choice to walk into that wheel of samsara, or that reincarnation cycle. Everything's a choice. Which makes me think that we chose to be here, or we were tricked into being here through our own choices. So basically, if you agree to it at the end of this life, then you cross a threshold as you enter that tunnel of light or wheel of samsara, your memory gets wiped, and you continue producing loosh for these satanic entities. You get thrown in the recycling bin. So, this is my opinion. Obviously you might disagree with it, but then obviously with me believing this, or having faith that it's true, I have to think, well, what do I do? I think you've just got to question everything all the time, and you've got to carry that on. Like your consciousness continues, and you've got to develop a level of skepticism and believing in yourself in order to question the things as they come up in the next realm. A lot of people who think, oh no, I might be going to hell, will be put in this fake heaven and get a sigh of relief, and will be nodding their heads to come back. You know, they'll jump straight into that circle, almost everyone would, into that wheel of light. But I'm a bit skeptical towards it now. I think karma's bullshit as well, because you get put on this earth and you have to make some extreme decisions, extreme choices. You can go through intense physical pain, you can be starving, and you have to make choices you don't want to make, and then these would be turned against you in a life review and be told, don't worry son, you can change everything, you can go back. I'm wondering what happens if you say fuck you, because I think that there's no interference by a benevolent God, because we are the one. You know, we are the one consciousness which is being manipulated, and this world has been so pushed away from that. It's strayed away from infinite consciousness and one source and infinite love, that the next most powerful energy source is loosh and fear. So yeah, just walking down here in Siem Reap. I'm just hoping that there's nothing that I've missed out on, really. Bear with me while I gather my thoughts. So, there were 1 billion people on Earth in the 1800s, and supposedly that's gone up to 8 billion. That makes me, or it brings strength to the argument that everyone, or a lot of people, are NPCs. I believe a potential trick for me to come here would be to save people, but COVID's shown that almost everyone can't be saved. Just that it's basically a choice again. And I think 90% of people, at least, are fools. And they'd make the choice, or they're just like software programs, a lot of them. It's like they're not even real people. And they'd solidify this dense reality that we're in and make it harder for people who question things to break out. So that would explain why there's so many NPCs. And also to emphasize that point that this God doesn't seem to be a loving God. You know, if he needs human and animal sacrifices, the God in the Old Testament was like really vengeful. He talked about eating your own children and flooded the earth. And something like that could have happened, you know. I suppose I've already delved enough into what people consider wacky, so I might as well talk about it. The world was very different not long ago, so I'm not sure if it's been a gradual change where this world was good and reincarnated on a good world, and it gradually changed into the shit show that we've got now. Or if we got tricked to be in here. I can't see how I would volunteer to be here, because I don't think that people can be saved, or almost everyone. I say that there's people who I met during COVID who used to believe in government and tax, and they came on, you know, better than anyone. And then some just get stuck. They can see the bullshit, they can see the magic trick, but then they never evolve their opinions. I suppose another thing to think about is, if I believe this, you'd think, well, you can get into a good state mentally and then just kill yourself. But then that's wrong as well, because you're immediately in a bad state of mind, which is quite selfish. And there's people here that love you. Everyone has people who love them. Sometimes it's just hard to see. And it's just not the right way to go about it. And we're on like a time limit in our lifetime to prepare ourselves for what happens when we pass. So I'm just trying to develop myself in the best way that I can for whatever comes. And that's just to get rid of all the programs. You're born as infinite consciousness. Everything you see is part of you. A baby has no label for anything on earth. It gradually gets told its name, gets given an identity, and separates itself from everyone and everything. It gets indoctrinated at school into a very linear way of thinking, and that becomes quite powerful because it's like a hive mind concept, or 12 monkeys syndrome. Everyone just starts believing this shit, and that makes reality, because we manifest this reality. It all comes from our minds. Kind of like the Matrix film, where he's got it's like virtual reality. Everything comes from the mind. Even time and distance. Everything, space, energy, everything's energy as well. Atoms, the protons, neutrons and electrons, and there's such a big space between the proton and neutron and then the electron. I suppose this is basic chemistry, but the proton and neutron would take up like the size of a golf ball in a football stadium, and the electron would be spinning around fucking miles away on the edge of the stadium. Is this camera alright? So yeah, considering turning around. Fuck it, just keep going. So what do you think? Please, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. It's just something that people don't talk about, and the reason that they don't is because people are so diverted, because society by design keeps us distracted. And you can end up feeling quite hopeless and alone too, but then that generates more loosh for these cunts. It's a strange concept, man. It just makes sense to me. If you try and make sense of it, it's like all religion's bullshit. That's obvious. Have people are born into religious families and then can't realise that they're a Muslim or whatever because they were born in a Muslim country or a Christian country. They end up Christian. People can't work it out because they get defensive because the programs kick in. No, God is great. Allah, sim, salabim, oh, Allah. It's all bullshit. Even Buddhism, and Buddhism has some good points. Enlightenment seen as seeing everything as one, but then they get stuck with this wheel of samsara. Where it would be Buddha there, where it would be one of these cunts saying, right, get back on the wheel, cunt. And I'm like, okay, thanks Buddha, and jump back on the shit show, man. There's things that can't be justified in this world being how it is. Kids getting blown up in Palestine every day, for one. I had a massage here recently and the guy was blind and he had a seizure and then he forgot where he was. What did that guy do to deserve that in a past life? He'll be generating a lot of loosh in this concept, you know. Correct this. Is there anything else to talk about with it? Talks about NPCs, Wheel of Samsara. I'll show you this while I consider things. There'll probably be things I wanted to talk about, but I would have forgot. But yeah, things are going well here at the minute. Been to the gym this morning. My Meniere's disease is always a problem. It's my ears ringing all the time and I'm dealing with it the best that I can, living the best life that I can. So yeah, I've told you how I feel things are at the minute. I don't have the solutions at the minute. The most basic solution I can think of is just to live in love and not fear. Don't generate loosh for these cunts. It's my solution. Realise how powerful you are, because me saying that there's no benevolent God coming to save us is because we are one consciousness and we've just been strayed away and diverted by some evil bastards to not realise that, to keep us constantly distracted. With all these temptations on earth, which is fine, just have an awareness of what you're doing. If you end up poisoning yourself in some way, whether it be gambling or addictions or sex or I don't know, like all of these are subjects can really delve into, like is lust a bad thing? You know, I don't know. We do have that reptilian part of our brain, which is like the inner part of the brain, which connects to the spinal cord. And that's all based on survival, timekeeping, shelter, food, eating, but then we don't tap into the other parts of our brain. We don't use a lot of our brain and we don't see a lot around us. I think it's like 0.005% of what we see is around us. Oh, another good point to make. Another good point to make is ether is seen as like the fourth stage of matter, like this solid, liquid and gas. And ether, which has now been relabeled as dark matter that we don't understand. But then you look at these ancient temples around here, they understood it. I end up thinking, did we even have to eat before? That's a good point as well. What kind of benevolent God would create a world where, to survive, you have to eat each other or other sentient beings, animals, you know, cows, lambs, that lamb jumping around in a field is like us. It can't perceive that it's going to the slaughterhouse, and I look at it like a yummy lamb chop. But it's just being harvested, and it gets the illusion that it's living a good life. It could be the same for us. There's no easy way out of this life. And it's all designed just to keep us in a state where we'd create this dense fear energy, which is for a reason. And these gods that the elites worship are satanic. It all just makes sense, man. Yeah, so anyway, I think that before we used to run off the ether. It's there, so did I. Maybe we did. These temples are set up in the way that they were for a reason. And why were all them intricate designs done on every brick if they were concerned about harvesting crops? You know, they'd be more concerned about eating. You know, the world's changed since I were a kid. It's all becoming more digital and AI influenced now. You end up thinking that life review, if it's like a very advanced form of AI, it's like you've got sat nav now directing hundreds of thousands of vehicles simultaneously. If you make a wrong turn, it corrects it. What's to say that that couldn't happen with life reviews? You'd have some kind of preparation already produced because your life's already been constantly under review. Oh. And then you get there, and then the satanic entity know the easiest way to manipulate you, whether to have a loved one there when you pass away to give you a life review, or to have a stadium full of people saying, well done, come on, come back. You're doing so good for this planet. Get back in there. Get back into that tunnel. Whoever's controlling things knows all of this, because it goes to a spiritual level. It's not about money. Money is just control. And if these are from other realms, what's to say that they don't manipulate the next realm? I think that's it. Oof, it stinks around here. I think that's all I've got to talk about with it. So yeah, the only solution I can come up with at the minute is to do the best that I can. Help put energy into the people who are worth putting the energy into. I suppose that's something I've learned from my own life experience. I did a door-to-door sales job in Australia, and I was quite good at it. And it's not that I was good at sales, it was just, well, we're pretty good at sales. But what I'd do, I used to get really pissed off, everyone rejecting me. You'd focus your energy onto the people who were interested. You know, I'd just knock on someone's door. Hello, how's it going? I'm Jimbo. I'm not as bad as I look. I can see you're not interested, so I'll leave you alone. Bye-bye. Thank you. Cheers, bye. And then I'd feel better, they'd feel better, and then I'd find someone who's smiling and nodding their head as I make my introduction. And I'd concentrate on them and usually sell them something. Get a bit of money in. Yeah. So I just learnt that it's better to focus on the people worth focusing on. I think he's waving at me. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. So yeah. Oh yeah, and COVID just showed that a lot of people aren't worth putting your energy into. Unfortunately. And that's why I'd also think that a purpose I would have had to come back would be to try and save people, but I tried to help people during COVID and it was mostly useless. But yeah, I think I'll leave it there. How long have we gone on for? 26 minutes. Yeah, I thought it'd be about that long. Everything's good in Seam Reap. I keep making points and then getting sidetracked. Those temples, I think here, they've had the tops taken off, and I think that they could have had copper rods like what's used to convert lightning and energy from solar panels. They could have had copper rods on top to convert ethereal energy, kind of like the plasma that Tesla discovered, and then his laboratory got burnt down. Everything got destroyed, like the Library of Alexandria, the Gnostic texts, the Nag Hammadi texts, everything about Cathars, all destroyed. And for what reason? It was all empowering information, and it talked about archons. What we think of as angels, or God's angels, are these manipulative forces. And the Old Testament God's the devil. It's a different story in the New Testament. I think that it's a much more loving God, and Jesus is the Son of God there. It's funny how the Jews don't like that book, but they like the Old Testament. There's different, obviously, varieties of Jew, but the most extreme ones just believe that this is hell on earth sort of thing, but they've got to destroy everything. Plants, people, any kind of life has to be destroyed, and that's their way into heaven. And that's what we're told is like, what, 4% of people on earth? It could be more. But then I suppose that's a sub-branch. There are some good Jews out there. Okay, so just walking across the road, nearly getting run over. Just such a crazy world, and people have such crazy thought processes and a lack of awareness to even question their own beliefs. And I think that's part of getting out of here. Wiping out the bullshit from school, which makes you feel powerless about everything. Religion, all bullshit. Just believe in what's real. I think I'll leave it there. So yeah, interesting video for me to make. I wanted to make it though, because I've been reading David Icke's new book, The Roadmap. I'm about 8 chapters in, and it kind of resonates with a lot of what I think. I'm looking forward to his solution on it all. But that makes the most sense to me. And I think almost everyone doesn't consider the afterlife could be a trap as well. And that's why we keep ending up here. And that's getting worse and worse. Well, people are getting more and more dumb. There's more and more dummies about. And That'd explain it all. Like quite clairvoyantly in my own mind. So I'll probably leave it here because I've got to navigate through all this shit and talk to you guys at the same time without getting run over. No problem. Don't know who I am. Jimbo Vigilante. Can't run over infinite consciousness. Just go to the afterlife and tell that old man to fuck off. Okay, sirs, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you soon. Take care. Bye.